Thank you, Mr Speaker. I take a call on behalf of New Zealand First in this omnibus bill covering check duty, climate change and building supplies bill. It was very interesting, Mr Speaker, to hear from Mr Paul Goldsmith of National giving his checklist of all the positive things in this budget and what people were getting out of it. He could have equally put up a checklist of what was coming out of the budget as well on the other counter side, which he didn't do. He seemed to only show the glossy side. He could have said that $18.5 million is coming out of output expenses to corrections. He could have said that $22.5 million is coming out of the courts. He could have said that $2.2 million is coming out of customs. He could have said that $1 million is coming out of economic development. And he could have said that $53 million is coming out of education outputs. Further, if he had his checklist that he was so proud of showing us, he could have also gone on to say that internal affairs is being chopped by $25 million, that justice is being chopped by $14 million, that labour is being chopped by $31 million, and that police are being chopped by $42 million. In total, when you add up what's being chopped out of the budget, Mr Goldsmith, the checklist shows that $284 million is being chopped out of operating output expenses of government departments this year. That is nothing to be proud of in a population that is expanding, and we've heard that 42,000 more people are going to come into this country, the size of Wanganui, or Whanganui, depending if you put an H in it. Size of Whanganui coming in the coming year, and yet $284 million is chopped out of operating expenses of government departments to come up with a contrived figure of $372 million surplus. So, Mr Speaker, that's not anything to be proud of. At the same time, today we hear about the building supplies bill and how this is going to save $3,500 per house, building a house, at a time when in Auckland house prices have gone up by 51.9% in the last 3 years. That's been the increase in houses. We're talking many, many tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, not just an average over the whole country of $3,500. And that $3,500 is not coming about because of the cost of building itself, but it's because of the cost of competition to buy houses. And Mr Speaker, today I received from one of our constituents this paper from Auckland, a real estate paper from Auckland. And lo and behold, it's all in Chinese. And I guess the members from... No, not at all. Not at all. But I guess the member from Wairarapa, or the member from Waimakariri, or the member from Taupo would be quite surprised if in their own town there was a 50-page newspaper, all in a foreign language, selling properties in your hometown. I think, Mr Hayes, you would be surprised. You would. I'm sure you would. Because it doesn't happen anywhere else in New Zealand apart from in Auckland. No, it's not. It's not. No, not at all. I have three, Miss Lee, I have three children aged 20, 25 and 28 who are saying they will struggle to get a home in Auckland because the people of their age in their 20s, Miss Lee, are unable anymore to even afford a deposit on a home in Auckland because they're being driven out of the market. I have many real estate people in Auckland saying to me that people are walking in the door and offering up to $200,000, $300,000 more than what a property is being estimated to be worth, offering cash, nothing to do with LVRs or nothing to do with going to the bank and lending or anything else. They've got the cash and they're walking in and they're paying serious money over the odds. So, Miss Lee, don't give me a lecture about it. I know what's happening. I know what's happening. We are seeing auctions on the North Shore that are literally cash buyers on the ends of mobile phones back to foreign parts, buying properties left, right and centre, pushing up the thing. So, Mr Speaker, the problem here is not tinkering around the edges. and cutting out the cost of a few nails and cutting down the cost of a bit of plasterboard and cutting out a few of the costs of materials. The problem we have here, Mr. Speaker, which is the big elephant in the room, is that in the Auckland market, and the Auckland market drives the rest of New Zealand, the Auckland market is currently seeing a huge amount of property being bought from interests abroad that is pushing the price of the market up. Ms Lee, next to my property in Auckland, there recently was a 550 square metre piece of land carved off the next door neighbour's back lawn. What would a 550 square metre property piece of land go in the Wairarapa, Mr Hayes? Probably, I don't know, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000? At that particular auction, that small pocket piece of land, the size of a handkerchief, went for $1 million in Auckland. $1 million in Auckland. And it did not go to a New Zealand buyer. It did not go to a New Zealand buyer. It didn't. It did not go to a New Zealand buyer. And furthermore, the second and the third bidders on the property were not New Zealand buyers either. They weren't. And all the people in our neighbourhood said, how on earth will our own children and our own families ever be able to stay in our own... And we've lived there for 30 years, Miss Lee. We've lived there for 30 years, and our friends in the neighbourhood have lived there for 30 years. All said, how are our families going to be able to afford to stay living in our own suburb? How are they going to stay living in our own suburb? So the answer, Ms Lee, no, it's not. The answer is to stop selling our houses and our land to foreigners. Put a stop on it. New Zealand First is going to do it. New Zealand First is going to bring a halt to selling land. If you're not a resident here and you're not a citizen here, we don't want you coming and buying our houses. We don't want you coming and buying our houses, because what it's doing is making New Zealanders tenants in their own country. Now, at the same time, Mr Speaker, it is interesting that this building supplies bill is going to have an effect on local manufacture. It is going to cause concern for some of our manufacturers of goods, and it's also going to have questions about whether inferior products, inferior quality of building materials will start to replace New Zealand manufactured products. Questions are already being asked by some manufacturers about whether they will come with the same level of warranties, guarantees and longevity of product and the source of these materials. Today on the stock exchange, Fletcher Building, the largest company in this area in New Zealand, dropped 11 cents. Its shares are down 11 cents today. It's gone down 1.2% in capitalisation. That's about $75 million knocked off the Fletcher Building capitalisation. So that's the first effect of this government, that Fletcher Building, and if that's one indication, then I'm sure many of the others involved in construction and that sort of thing in New Zealand will equally be going down. So the effect of this, Mr Speaker, is a trifling 3,500 fictitious, contrived figure on the saving of a house, which can't be quantified. It's probably another one of the back of the cigarette packet formulas that the government's worked out. $3,500. Whereas if the government really got stuck in and said, we're going to have a land register in this country, we're going to work out who owns the property, who owns the land, we're going to work out how we can control it, we're going to take the heat out of the housing market, and we're going to help good Kiwi New Zealanders get back into houses, and young families. They've done nothing in this budget for first home buyers, absolutely nothing. They've done nothing for young working families. Nothing at all in terms of helping them getting into housing, and their answer to it is to try and knock off the price of a few nails and a bit of gibwood. Well, Mr Speaker, New Zealand First will not be going along with that.
Honourable Kate Wilkins.